Check your calendars. The August primary, still weeks away, but it's already busy over at the clerk's office as workers get prepared. And to talk more, we want to bring in our good friend Debbie Binder, the West Bloomfield Township clerk. Miss Debbie, I learn so much every time I talk to you.
Hi, Ronnie. Always good to be here, and I hope to share some more information with you today.
So I always get confused when it comes to the primary because it's a straight party voting, right?
What you have to remember is in a primary, you're selecting who's going to represent the party, not who's going to be the final vote. That's what you do in the general election. So in the primary, you have to stay on one side of the ballot for the partisan section. If you cross over to the other side for one of the contests, you end up avoiding the ballot, your partisan section of your ballot. So it's really important that you stay on one side of the ballot. It's different than a presidential primary where you actually receive one party ballot. You actually have a ballot in a regular primary that has both parties on different sides, and you need to be really careful not to cross over.
You have a lot to learn when you are the clerk, right? All these little tiny details, so that we can make sure our vote does count. Anything different this year? I know last year there was a lot of talk about the absentee ballots, but it seems like we're getting used to that now, and so many other states have been doing that for years.
We have seen a huge shift in absentee voting. It's beginning with Proposal 3 of 2018, which was an amendment to the Michigan Constitution voted on by the citizens of Michigan, which provided for no reason absentee voting. And we saw our permanent absent voter application list increase from 8,000 to 11,000 during that period. And then with the COVID time, when a lot of people were choosing to go vote from home, including myself, I tend to be a precinct voter, but I did vote absentee during COVID. We saw that list increase to about 24,000, and we saw the percent of turnout by absentee ballot in West Bloomfield increase as well. So voters are choosing that to their right to vote by absentee ballot. So we do need to make sure that they are aware. One big difference between an absentee voter and a poll voter is that a person who's in the poll, if they make a mistake, the machine's going to throw the ballot back to them and allow them to correct the mistake. But if they vote by absentee, there's no voter there. So that ballot would get cast as is, meaning if they cross over, if they were to do that in the precinct, they could correct that ballot. But when it happens by absentee ballot, there's no voter and it will be cast as is. So it's really important that that education component take place ahead of time and that the voter be aware of how to vote that primary ballot.
So what are some of the more common mistakes that you're seeing from voters?
Really, that's one of the most common, is seeing that they cross over in a primary. The other one is that their signature doesn't match when they turn in their ballot. Every application and every ballot has to have a signature verification, that we have to have a matching signature. Typically, it's matched to their driver's license or their state ID, but we do verify the signature. Sometimes they try to be so perfect that it doesn't match what we have on file. Now, when we do get a ballot in that has a signature issue, we are making every effort to contact that voter by email, by phone, and by sending out a letter if there's time, so that the voter has time to cure the deficiency. But to make that happen, it's important that the voter plan ahead. Don't wait until last minute, because if you turn your ballot in at 7 o'clock, we're not going to be able to catch you. So plan ahead, turn that ballot in as early as possible. We were able to, with messaging in 2020, cut down the amount of ballots that came in on election day from 20% of our absent voter ballots to 4% by messaging and telling people to get that ballot in early. That's really going to be another important message this year, Ronnie, is to tell people, don't wait, get that ballot in early. The mail can be delayed. There's all sorts of things that happen to hold up you don't want to have your voice not heard. So make sure that you are turning that ballot in. If you have to rely on mail, plan ahead, allow time, and if you have the ability to use one of our drop boxes on either side of Town Hall, I recommend that you do that. Return your application or ballot using those drop boxes. Another important thing people don't realize I don't know if I'd call it a mistake, but people don't realize is we have people that will say to us, you send me an absentee ballot every year. I don't ever fill out an application. we don't send a ballot unless we receive a signature verified application. What may happen is the voter fills out a dual application for an August primary and a November general and forgot that they filled out that application, but we must receive a signed application for every election, which could be a dual application for a primary general in order to send a ballot. The only exception to that would be our military and overseas voters who are allowed to request a ballot for the entire year. But everyone else must request with an application a ballot for each election.
There's so much to know as the rules change. I'm still old school. I want to go in and I want my sticker at the end.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I like to go in and get my sticker too.
So what is the typical turnout for an August primary?
Well, I think we're going to see a different turnout for a typical gubernatorial primary this year because we have seen that the change in with Proposal 3 of 2018 and an increase in absentee voters. Every person on our absent voter application list will receive an application. So that's like notice that there's an election coming. So people that may not have previously known there was an election will now be aware that there is an election coming. So I think we will see numbers increase. We anticipate we'll see about a turnout. We have 54,000 registered voters in West Bloomfield Township, 55,000. We figure we're going to see a turnout between 18 and 21,000, with about 14,000 of those ballots being cast by absentee. We do know we will be above our typical gubernatorial turnout based on the Proposal 3 and the increase in absentee voting. So that's what, I've been proven wrong before, but typically we've been pretty able to guess what we're going to see in turnout.
One thing with COVID, I was really surprised that the last election that we didn't have a higher turnout, because I feel like we now know how important these super local elections are to our community. The school board, your local, elected leaders, because they were making the decisions when it came to, COVID. And so I'm hoping that people realize their vote really does matter, and they get out and they exercise their right. So many people died for us to be able to do this. And with that, can I ask you, because I was looking the other day and I can't find my voter registration card. Do you need that when you go to vote, or is your driver's license good enough?
Your driver's license is what you want to bring. We actually always say that it should be called a voter information card, because you do not need to bring that to the polls. What you bring is your license with you, your driver's license or other applicable photo ID. In absence of having photo ID, a voter may vote signing an affidavit of their identity. But that voter identification card, where that's really important, is to show you what your districts are and where your precinct is. So it is important to note that this year every single voter in West Bloomfield will receive a new voter ID card to let them know we've had redistricting from the 2020 census. So a good handful will have a change of polling or precinct, even though most will not change polling location. We tried to be very careful with that, but all of those changes, every single voter in West Bloomfield Township will receive a new voter identification card. But you do not need to bring it with you to the polls. If you do, great, but what we need you to bring is your driver's license or the acceptable photo ID.
Miss Debbie Binder with us here on the Splash. Anything, Debbie, maybe I didn't ask that you want to add?
One important thing for people to know is that we are always open, and this is by statute, the weekend before an election. The hours can vary. This year we will be open from 8 to 4 the Saturday prior to an election for absentee voting. We know it's not always easy for people to get here on, during a work day, so we do have Saturday hours as well. They can vote by absentee. They can request an absentee ballot up to 4 p.m. the day before the election. There's a lot more details to that. If anyone has questions, I would recommend they contact the clerk's office at 248-451-4848. We can help you with any information that you might need. But know that, again, it is your right. It is protected. And we do anticipate that we will see a turnout. We have typically had a good turnout in West Bloomfield Township for our, in terms of the percentage of voters. So I know you talked, Ronnie, about people exercising their right. In a presidential, we typically have had 65% turnout, or I'm sorry, 75% turnout. We were at 79% in 2020. And in a gubernatorial, we'll be well over 60, which outperforms the state average. So we are a community that cares, a community that votes, and a lot of the help that you guys give us to get the word out and important information, it really does help make that difference. So can't thank you enough, and hope to be able to share more with you as we get closer to election date, but can't stress enough to please tell anyone who has questions, call your clerk's office. Even if you want to see, what the life of an absentee ballot is like, call. I'll take you on a tour. You can see how many checks and balances are in place to protect your vote. So I open that opportunity. Call my office if you're interested, and thank you very much for your coverage of an important topic.
And I would imagine you always need volunteers.
We do, and they're actually paid volunteers, we could say. We do pay our election inspectors. It's not enough per hour, but they come back because they know it's an important job that they do. We do have a change this year that Oakland County will be processing our absentee ballots that are received before 4 p.m. the Monday before. So we will need fewer than usual, and right now we have a good list, but things change, and we are always looking to recruit a new group so that we, as we have retirees, we have people that have done this for 20, 30 years, but as they retire, we always need to add. So if anyone's interested in getting involved, please reach out. You'll find out that we need a lot of different skills, and we have to have all parties represented in a precinct and in a polling location. Most activities in an election process take place in the presence of 2 different parties. So it's important that we have everyone represented, and I encourage anyone thinking about getting involved to know that it's a great opportunity. It's a great experience. Everyone complains it's a long day. It is, and everyone comes back because they know they're part of something big.
What a great way to serve your community as well. Debbie, thank you so much for your time. We so appreciate it.
Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you so much. Enjoy a nice rainy day.